I'm Evan Falbaum,
I'm Kemerton Hargrove.
and we're gonna start reviewing movies from the car after watching the movie.
Yeah, right when we get to the car, leaving the theater, that's when you typically have the best rundown of what you just saw. Should we say mild spoiler?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, it's gonna be full of spoilers.
Yeah,
now.
because I mean, if we're gonna do this
we're gonna
right,
talk
I'm gonna
about it
spoil
right.
the hell out of it.
Yeah, so we just saw Avengers: Age of Ultron.
That's right.
I guess a little bit of background. I'm not a terribly huge Marvel guy. I think both Kimmer and I are pretty big in the DC camp. I really just call myself a Batman guy. Yeah. And honestly, I did not enjoy the first Avengers at all. I didn't. I just thought it was like a cartoon that didn't really have any weight to it. I didn't have any investment in any of the characters.
I felt like the first Avengers was kind of like a like a TV movie or like
you
a
had to get it out of the way.
Yeah, and it was fun, and that was the
it did what it was supposed to do.
And I was like, okay, that's
Yeah.
fine. Going forward with the second one, especially after like Captain America: Winter Soldier, which was an interesting departure for them. It seemed like it had a different tone.
I enjoyed that one.
I was looking for them to really hit a grand slam with this, and I think there are a lot of great moments throughout it, but it was hard to think of like a through line.
I mean, I went in with low expectations, and I was actually pretty impressed. I enjoyed this a lot more than the first one.
Yeah, there's a lot more to like.
I think what made it work for me was that there's just a lot more weight to it. We got to know the characters better.
Mm-hmm.
We got to see their dark pasts, which, thanks to Scarlet Witch for basically being a plot device to allow us to see all that.
Yeah.
You still have a couple of people like Thor, who's just as one-dimensional as ever. Like, why didn't he get a dark past? I don't even know what he really saw.
I'm not sure what happened with him.
I don't know what
either.
his story was. Somehow he saw Thanos' master plan.
I'm going to go back and forth on this because I think Ultron worked, and I think the twins worked, Scarlet Witch and Quicksilver, but I can't help but think, what if they had one and not the other? Like, what if they had a movie that was all Ultron, or a movie that introduced them maybe separately?
Here's my thing with Ultron is the best scene with Ultron was the first scene where he walks into the party and
completely agree.
Just bones. That was the scariest thing because he was totally incapable of fighting.
Right.
And here he is threatening these guys, laying out his plan, and they blast him. It doesn't matter because he's not a physical being.
Yeah.
And then what does he do? He goes and becomes a physical being that they can go beat up.
Right.
It's like, so suddenly this really great idea for a villain, which is basically
any machine,
the internet.
He can control anything.
He's just out there in thin air. You can't fight him. And that's what the Avengers do, is they fight. And then they went completely backwards and turned him into something that you fight physically, which is just...
Yeah, and it came a slugfest again. Like the last scene, I mean, it was so impressive in a lot of ways.
Impressive
it was like
action.
The first one, it was like them on bridges,
fighting
people.
It was
like
very similar
together.
to New York crumbling. Now it's some Middle Eastern
and Ultron's drones
country.
were like as easy to fight as aliens.
The same thing. Everybody gets their moment.
Vision was great, but I'm still not sure what the hell he is.
Not knowing some of the Marvel lore, I didn't really know Vision. I'd heard something about a guy named Vision appearing, and I didn't really see that execution coming, so that I was pleased by not being able to quite predict where the movie was going in that regard.
Right. But that's, you're introducing Ultron, Vision, Quicksilver, Scarlet Witch.
Right. It just
gets a lot, overloaded. But, I don't think that there's a false note with any of them.
To make kind of a blanket statement, it would be that the villain didn't work, but the heroes did in this one.
I think that's true.
I felt the weight of the Avengers more and the conflicts of the Avengers more in this one than I've ever felt so far.
Right. Has there been one casualty for Marvel ever?
Well, that's
like, these things happening, like there's one person falling and they're going to get them.
And that's the thing is, I feel like there are the same kind of problem that Man of Steel had, where everybody's mad that Superman was letting people die. Well, that same exact situation happened in the first Avengers. It happened in this one. There's no way they're getting every single person.
No, but they make a point to be like, we got to get everyone out.
pissed me off during the Hulk and Iron Man fight, where like he takes a minute to save the 4 people in the elevator, and what's the next beat is they go and crash this giant building like 9/11 style. Bam! Somebody died in that. I swear to God. Like you got this really interesting idea of a villain who exists in like ambient space. Like he's not a physical being.
How do you?
And he's still in the movie with a giant city being destroyed.
Fight, you know?
Yeah. And his plan, I mean, it seemed kind of half-assed. Oh, he's gonna raise this city and then drop it. It's like he's set up as a much smarter guy than that.
He shut down all the power, electricity, everything.
Yeah. Also, how did they fly their ship? How does Iron Man even work after Ultron was introduced in the system?
I don't know.
There's like a scene, and then he's got like the glove flying to him. Well, how's that working in the world where Ultron controls everything? And I wasn't quite sure. Okay, like he was so ahead of them every step of the way. Mm-hmm. But then it came down to if he touches this, it's over. But if he doesn't, we're good. It was kind of like what? I did like the twist that Quicksilver he dies.
Quicksilver bites the bullet. He dies.
Almost literally bites the bullet. I felt a little more of a person out of him than I did the X-Men version of Quicksilver.
I did too. I like seeing some of the old familiar faces. War Machine finally got to do something.
I like that they're recognizing that those people are still there.
They exist.
Hawkeye got a great treatment, I thought, in this one.
He got redeemed in this one big time. I think it was good. It could have maybe been great, but it's hard to balance everything.
Yeah, I mean, it still kind of floats in that area where, like, I'm not sure I'll ever need to watch it again.
Peaks and valleys.
It was entertaining. I enjoyed it. I thought it was better than First Avengers. I probably won't buy it and watch it again. I'm not that committed to this franchise, but I enjoyed it. I didn't like.
And I
was mad after the first.
Well, Joss Whedon had a very tough job of moving them to another phase.
It's not an easy movie to make.
And the stakes are higher.
Yeah.
And the fact that he managed to work everyone in, give everyone moments.
I am getting a little weary of the sarcasm throughout.
It's too much.
Sometimes it's inappropriate.
Quicksilver was dying, and he's like,
he makes the
joke. It's like we don't need this shit.
There's a few too many one-liners and really dramatic moments where it seems like the Avengers should be taking what they're doing a little more seriously. There's a little moment where like the world's ending and Hawkeye and Scarlett Johansson are riding around in a convertible in this crumbling city, cracking wise about how he's going to redo his house. It was consistently funny. The lines that are in there are funny, but it's just sometimes it's not. You need to step up.
And Marvel's not super serious. Like, I didn't need a Dark Knight Avengers. That's not what it is. So that's fine.
But I think Daredevil has been a hugely successful step, and it's easily my favorite Marvel thing yet. Establishes a compelling villain and stuff, and it takes a darker tone, and
they're gonna have to do something.
And now it's like, okay, but now you're gonna put out Ant-Man. And
I mean, how many times
can you refresh the lineup?
Can you watch different people smashing a bunch of people and using their powers? So you're like, okay, they're different.
The first thing I was thinking,
they're still smashing people.
As soon as walking out of the theater, the first thing I was wondering is like, what the hell are they gonna do after Infinity War? It's like, okay, now we know Thanos is coming, and there's going to be Guardians of the Galaxy.
Well, they're going to all fight, which is the problem.
I mean,
Vision's awesome.
Hulk is going to punch somebody,
At the end of the day, Vision was really cool and everything. It's a great new character, but how much cooler is he fighting a bunch of people than Hulk?
They've got to get...
still battering people.
At the end of the day, it's still the same physical battle.
I mean, there was a lot of really cool scenes. I haven't seen any superhero movie in terms of action and stuff like that.
Yeah, the action was well done. It was well. If you're gonna make that kind of movie, they know how to make it, and they've done it well. Yeah. But I guess my thing is, I think we're starting to get a little weary of that kind of movie.
Yeah, I mean that's why I'm real curious to see what they do next.
And we already know, because we know Thanos is like, what else is he gonna do except threaten to kill planet Earth? I can't imagine. What else is gonna get them pissed off except the world ending, and they're still gonna have. It's like, okay, well, what else can they do?
Right. I mean, it's going to be...
I mean,
as you up the bar, you got to think, okay, we got to try something different, which is, you want to do fan service, you want to, keep doing what's successful, but someone's going to have to throw a little bit of a curveball. But considering, gosh, all the people in that film, and they're all good actors...
Yeah, they balance. I mean, they balance it well. I mean, I feel like that's becoming the form of writing and filmmaking that this is now. It's like, how do we balance all this? We got to add new characters to keep it fresh, and how do we keep the old ones coming back in? And now it's just gonna become so freaking big.
But I enjoyed it. I did enjoy it.
I had a good time.
I had a good time.
And that's more than I can say for the first Avengers and honestly most Marvel movies for me. As a Batman guy, I feel like this movie did sort of win me over. It was justified in my mind a little bit. I had a good time.
I would have liked to see like one nighttime battle. I feel like they'll never fight at night.
I'm sure.
All right,
I'm sure eventually we'll
next
see
time
them
I gotta
fight in
see
every
some-
possible scenario they can.
Yeah.
And they'll take them all off. There'll be a night
Like
fight.
put them underwater.
Because they gotta keep fighting.
Yeah.
That's all they do is fight.
And then,
so.
I guess it's, you don't want to see them, like a quiz bowl team, like outsmarting them. So it's tricky.
Yeah, how do you come back from saving the
Right.
world? That's kind of the problem the Marvel
we're just
has.
gonna have a debate.
That's why, like, I hate to keep bringing up Daredevil, but it's like, well, here's a guy that's like taking off a small chunk of this problem, and he's got a law firm, and what sounds mundane, but it's actually way more refreshing and interesting.
This was, in my mind, a good film.
Mm-hmm.
It's built on the first one. There's a lot to get in there, so it didn't take a huge leap forward in terms of like stakes or necessarily some of that stuff, but it was still more surprising than the first Avengers.
I felt like it had more weight to it. That's what I needed.
Yeah.
After the first Avengers, what I needed was more character, more weight, and more consequences.
Kevin Feige has the best / worst job in the world.
Yeah, I don't know. I think he's probably got to be wanting to like make an indie film or something soon.
That was our first edition of whatever the name of the show is.
We got to name the show, and now we're just we've reached the destination, so we probably need to cut this off.
We're gonna start seeing movies in Dallas or something. But yeah, enjoyed it.
All right, bye.
Cool.